All right, so what you're looking at is a solution to the target version of the vote results object, which supports 3 candidates and will let you cast votes for different candidate numbers and tally those votes. For advanced version 1, I thought it would be nicer, instead of voting for candidate by number, instead to support voting for candidates by name. So I'm going to be modifying my solution here so that you can see that. So the first thing we need is the constructor is going to take the names of the candidates. So in my election here, the candidates are Sauron, Bilbo, and Gandalf. And then before changing my object itself, I'm going to fully imagine how I want to be using it. So I'm going to construct my object with the names of the candidates. Then I'm going to cast my votes by candidate name. So I'll cast 1 for Bilbo, I'll cast 1 for Sauron, I'll cast 1 for Sam, even though Sam is not a candidate, because I just want to be clear that you should be thinking about inputs that are not what you're expecting to see, and you should deal with them in some way. And then let's cast another vote for Bilbo, and then when I'm asking for the total votes someone got, again, I should ask for them by name, so how many total votes did Bilbo get? And then get winner, I'm expecting it to return a string, which is the name of the person who won, not the number of the person who won. All right, so far so good. So let's try and actually do that over on this side. So I'll always start by thinking, do I need more variables to save more information? So right now I've got 3 integer variables for the number of votes for each candidate, but now I'll need 3 more variables for their names. So name 0, name 1, name 2. Again, if you didn't watch the first video, if you knew about arrays, arrays would definitely be the right solution for this problem rather than creating sort of parallel sets of variables like this. But if you don't know about arrays yet, this will also work. All right, so because my constructor is taking 3 inputs here that are all strings, that means when I'm defining my class over here, I need to create 3 variables that will hold those 3 names. So I'm going to call those n1, I'll call them n0, n1, and n2. All right, so I'm already setting the number of votes to be 0, but now I'll also say name 0 equals n0. So I take the input name and I assign it to my field name 0, because this is these are the variables that my class is going to remember, and these variables here are just temporary to hold the values that I want to be assigning to these variables up here. All right, so let's do 2 more. So now let's change cast vote. Cast vote right now takes a number as input, but instead we're going to change it, so it takes a name as input. This was checking to see if the number was not one of the numbers for our candidates. I'm going to do my error checking slightly differently in this case. So rather than checking if number equals 0, we're going to check if name equals something. So you might expect to say if name equals name 0. So I'm asking, is the input name equal to candidate 0's name? You might expect you could do this with a double equals sign. Actually, you cannot do that unless it's for primitive data types that are numbers, like int, double. Actually, I guess Boolean also. If you're going to check for string equality, you want to say name.equals. So I'm checking if this name equals that name. All right, so if my input name equals candidate 0, then I want to cast a vote for candidate 0. So really, I just want to do the same thing. So if my name equals candidate 1's name, I'll cast a vote for candidate 1. And if my name equals candidate 2's name, I'll cast a vote for candidate 2. Otherwise, if none of these 3 if statements are true, I just won't do anything. All right, so let's change get total votes. So now get total votes, I've got a name as an input, and I'm expecting to get the total number of votes. So I think we want this same structure where we're going to, as an input, take the name of the candidate. And then I'm pasting here because we want to see if the name was candidate 0's name, then we'll return candidate 0 number of votes. Same thing for 1, same thing for 2. What happens if the name that's given isn't any of our 3 candidate names? In that case, at the very end, I'll return 0 because that candidate was not in the election, so they got 0 votes. All right, so next is get winner. So here for get winner, I'm going to keep this structure where I'm checking did candidate 0 get more votes than candidate 1, and also did they get more votes than candidate 2. In that case, candidate 0 is the winner, so I'm going to return name 0. And that means my return type here is going to be string because this part tells me what's the data type of what I'm returning as an answer. So it'll be string. All right, so here I can return 1, here I can return 2. Okay, so I said that if there was a tie, we should return a string that consists of all of the names of the people who tied. So I'm going to get a couple more if statements for that. So I'm going to say if candidate 0 equals candidate 1, and also candidate 0 equals candidate 2, then I'm going to return a string that consists of name 0, followed by name 1, followed by name 2, because we have a 3-way tie, and so sort of everybody won, or everybody lost, if you want to think about it that way. Okay, if there's a 2-way tie, there are 3 different 2-way ties that are possible, so I'll need 3 more if statements. Again, when we remake this with arrays, all of this will become super duper short, because you won't have to test each possibility separately. All right, so if candidate 0 equals candidate 1, let's see, I was just thinking, if candidate 0 equals candidate 1, that means it's a 2-way tie. So is it safe to return name 0 plus name 1? I'm going to put a space in there. I think the answer is yes, because if candidate 0 equals candidate 1, but there's also a 3-way tie, if those also equaled candidate 2, I would have already returned. I would have got that earlier. Okay, what if candidate 0 and candidate 1 have the same number of votes, but they actually both lost? So let's say candidate 2 had 10 votes, and these 2 candidates both had 1 vote. In that case, we wouldn't want to say it was a tie because they sort of tied as the loser. But we're already catching that earlier on as well. In that case, this if statement would have been true, so candidate 2 would have been larger than both, and we would have returned candidate 2 as the answer. So I just wanted to think that through a little bit to make sure that was going to return the right thing. So now we can do, again, 2 more if statements. So if candidate 0 is the same as candidate 2, then we'll return a tie between name 0 and name 2. If candidate 1 is the same as candidate 2, then it's a 2-way tie between candidate 1 and candidate 2. Whew. All right, so those are all the different possible things that might happen. So I'm going to return empty string at the end, because if you're returning a string, you have to have some return statement that's not in an if statement in order to guarantee that you're going to return a value. All right, so that was very laborious, testing a lot of cases. Again, we're going to find a way to do this faster later, but that should work for the moment. Let's run it and see if it's working. Candidate 0 got 2 votes. The winner is Bilbo. Yep, that makes sense. And now let's change this to Gandalf. Let's test some of our tie conditions. So I think this is going to be a 3-way tie. Winner is Sauron, Bilbo, Gandalf. Great. Let's do a 2-way tie between Gandalf and Sauron. Sauron and Gandalf. Okay,